was very intensified, and then it's been a very exciting moment. At the same time, we are very happy to keep going for the implementation of what we need to do under the Paris Agreement. And the JCM, Joint Crediting Mechanism, is a very strong, powerful mechanism that we are actually bringing our ideal for decarbonizing society to the practice. And today, we're very happy to have excellent speakers. And then we're also having good discussions today with you at this side event. We're having this side event as the joint organization of the Ministry of the Environment of Japan, MOEJ, and also the Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center of Japan. So welcome to the side event implementing the JCM and creating various benefits for stakeholders. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker from my co-organizer from the Ministry of the Environment Japan, Ms. Eri Matsumoto from Office of Market Mechanism of the MOEJ is participating from Tokyo now. So Matsumoto-san, may I invite you to the floor?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Matsumoto Eri from the Ministry of the Environment Japan. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I hope you're doing well despite this ongoing global pandemic. Today, I'd like to talk about the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JCM, and its expansion. Next slide, please. Before introducing the JCM, let me briefly explain the current Japanese law on global warming. Japan has a law called the Act on Promotion of Global Warming Countermeasures. The plan for global warming countermeasures was established under this law. It was unanimously adopted by cabinet decision, and it defines Japan's emission reduction target for fiscal year 2030 and Japan's NDC. Japan aims to reduce its greenhouse gas GHG emissions by 46% in fiscal year 2030 from its fiscal year 2013 levels, setting an ambitious target which is aligned with the long-term goal of achieving net zero by 2050. Furthermore, Japan will continue strenuous efforts in its challenge to meet the lofty goal of cutting its emission by 50%. With regard to JCM, Japan aims for cumulative GHG emission reduction about 100 million tons of CO2 through public-private partnerships. Next, I will explain about the JCM in detail. Next slide, please. This is the basic concept of the JCM. Carbon market mechanisms, including the JCM, were defined under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. In addition to reducing GHG emissions, such market mechanisms will also ensure partner countries' sustainable development. Under the JCM, Japan supports JCM partner countries by providing advanced decarbonizing technologies. With governmental support, companies from both Japan and partner countries will jointly implement projects to reduce GHG emissions. Credit resulting from GHG emission reductions and removals will be shared among the participating countries. The JCM also contributes to achieving Japan and partner countries' NDC emission reduction target in line with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Next, please. Here are some concrete examples of JCM projects. A variety of decarbonizing technologies are being provided in line with partner countries' needs. Also, Japan supports the entire process of measurement, reporting, and verification (MRV) of GHG emission reduction in a quantitative manner, along with forming a joint committee with partner countries. Next, please. This slide shows over 17 Jcm partner countries, and many more are expected to join in the near future. Next, please. This is the latest global overview of our Jcm model project. As you can see, our Jcm partners are mainly located close to Japan in the Indo-Pacific region. Since 2013, over 200 projects have been selected. Resulting total cumulative GHG emission reductions are estimated to reach around 20 million tons of CO2 by 2030. Next, please. This graph illustrates the various types of decarbonizing technologies supported by the JCM. Renewable energy and energy efficiency are gathering the most support. However, along with the expansion and development of the JCM, other areas have been emerging, such as waste management, transport, and so on. Next, please. As mentioned at the beginning, Japan is committed to achieving its 2030 GHG reduction target. For the reduction target, Ministry of the Environment will implement 4 actions to ensure favorable conditions for diverse and large-scale JCM projects. Next, I'm going to touch upon the financial support for the JCM. First, the support scheme is referred to as JCM model project. To put it simply, this scheme supports renewable energy or energy efficiency projects. This is by far the largest fund for projects under the JCM, and the budget for fiscal year 2021 is approximately $88 million USD. For this scheme, the Ministry of the Environment bears up to half of the investment cost when advanced decarbonizing technologies are installed by the international consortium. Once the consortium has installed a facility, CO2 emission reductions monitoring and reporting undergo a third-party review. Next, please. This financial support scheme for JCM is not only managed by the Japanese government, but also led by the Asian Development Bank, ADB. A trust fund has been set up at the ADB by Japan for the JCM. This fund provides financial support for ADB's financing projects. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide shows our JCM F-gas model project. It is similar to other JCM model projects, but this financial support targets the recovery and removal of fluorocarbon GHG and supports the establishment of business schemes and transportation of F-gas, in addition to the installation of facilities. Next, I would like to present our collaboration with international organizations. Japan implements the JCM in collaboration with ADB, World Bank, and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. With ADB, we are cooperating to share knowledge on Article 6 and evaluate contributions to the SDGs through JCM. In 2019, we concluded a memorandum of cooperation for scaling up the JCM with the World Bank and developed the JCM by utilizing various World Bank's initiatives and programs. Also, we signed a joint declaration on environment cooperation with UNIDO in order to support JCM in 2020 and held a Japan UNIDO webinar in 2021. Next slide, please. As mentioned at the beginning, the JCM contributes to partner countries' sustainable development. In order to promote JCM's contribution to SDGs, we published a report analyzing the interlinkages between the JCM and the SDGs and evidencing the way in which JCM contributes to SDGs. Also, Japan developed the guidance on gender equality for the joint crediting mechanism with the aim of encouraging Jcm project participants to take action towards gender equality. Further details were given by IGS and the GC colleagues in today's seminar. Next slide, please. Finally, I'd like to introduce the JCM Global Match. The JCM Global Match is a business matching platform for JCM participants. About 600 people, mainly from JCM partner countries, are currently registered. It is now possible for participants to communicate directly on the platform through a dedicated chat room. Participants can advertise their business by setting up a profile and sharing their area of expertise. Previous settings such as exchanging opportunities and contact details remain available. We look forward to your registration to our platform. You might find your future business partner. That's all. Thank you very much for your kind attention and time.
Thank you very much, Matsumoto-san. Now, in Glasgow, Japan Pavilion, well, we are having expanding number of participants, galleries here, and then Matsumoto-san's presentation actually kick off a really nice part of our JCM discussion today. And indeed, after the start of the scheme, now it's really growing in a dynamic ways, quantitatively, because it's now as a part of Japan's NDC plan for NDC implementation. So that is one thing we see JCM as a more important role than ever. But also for the support schemes and also promotion mechanism, promotion programs for the government of Japan in partnership with partner countries as well as partner organizations. So I think it's really enriched in this regard. So Matsumoto-san's presentation actually walked us through how the programs are actually inviting us to move forward for the scaling up of the JCM and also greenhouse gas mitigation. Thank you very much, Matsumoto-san. Now, I would like to move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is Mr. Wataru Toze, researcher of the Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center, Japan. He's going to introduce the various benefits created by the JCM. Toze-san, please.
Thank you so much for introducing me, Kato-san. My name is Wataru Toze, researcher from the Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center, Japan. I'm glad to be here to introduce various benefits by JCM with these speakers and speakers from Tokyo and speakers from Vietnam. I am explaining about various benefits by the JCM for following presentators. Next slide, please. At first, I am explaining about the overviews of various benefits by the JCM. The use of carbon market mechanisms including the joint crediting mechanisms is articulated under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. The JCM is being developed and implemented in accordance with requirement of Article 6.2. The implementation of JCM not only contributes to Japan's GHG emission reduction target, but also could contribute to Japan and partner countries' NDC. JCM also creates co-benefits and contributes to the achievement of SDGs, which is also aimed to be achieved by 2030s. Next, I would like to explain about 3 benefits by the JCM. At first, facilitating diffusion of leading decarbonization technologies. And second, contribution to NDCs. And third, contribution to SDGs. As to first point, the introduction of leading decarbonization technologies can contribute to the sustainable development in partner countries, with taking balance between climate targets and development in partner countries. In addition, spillover effect can be also expected by the diffusion of these technologies. To help this contribution, the Ministry of the Environment Japan is conducting financing program for Jcm model project, which contributes to the introduction of leading decarbonization technologies, while reducing the burden on partner countries. And in addition, the city-to-city collaboration program for low-carbon society, including the Jcm project, which contributes to realization of the comprehensive decarbonized society by transferring experiments and technologies in Japan to partner countries. As to the second point, GHG emission reduction or removal through the mitigation action implemented in partner countries by the JCM was issued as Jcm credit and allocated to Japan and partner countries. JCM credits can be utilized to achieve NDC target of Japan and partner countries. The detail of this contribution will be mentioned by speakers from partner countries, Dr. Bhatt Jalgal, Ms. May, and Mr. Philip. As to the third point, the implementation of JCM brings the sustainable development to partner countries' society by contribution various goals, not only Goal 13 and Goal 7 by climate mitigation actions, but also related to social issues such as Goal 8, Goal 12, and Goal 17. For this contribution, I just analyzed the contribution of JCM project to the achievement of SDGs. Such good practices which have been high contribution to achieving SDGs also exist in partner countries. So, the Ministry of Environment and JEC has introduced a guideline on gender equality for the JCM to facilitate consideration of gender equality when the project participants apply for financing program for JCM model project. Next slide, please. And from these contributions, JCM has important roles in many aspects towards 2030. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tode-san, for walking us through different various benefits generated by the JCM. Indeed, this is the mechanism that actually contributes the greenhouse gas emissions reduction, but also it actually facilitates the transition for Japan, of course, but for our partner countries to move for the decarbonization world by putting for the very strong investment on decarbonization technologies while meeting NDC targets. And also, it's very important to promote the sustainable development goal benefits. And I think this is one of the focuses that we are actually taking up in today's discussion. So thank you very much, Tode-san, for providing for the very nice hints for us for our discussion today. Now, I am also very much interested in like a recent study that was conducted by our partner, more like a brother or sisters, IGES, Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, is very active in this JCM promotion. And today, Ms. Temurun from IGES is providing information about the Article 6 cooperative approach and JCM linkages with the SDGs. So Temurun-san, you're welcome to make a presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind introduction. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully you can see. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, I can see.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon and good evening. As I introduced, I'm Temurun, a researcher from IGS, Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. First of all, I would like to thank for the organizer for inviting me to present our studies on GCM and SDGs analysis. And also, I would like to thank all the participants for joining this event. Today, I will be covering those topics, sustainable development in context of Article 6.2 and GCM Sustainable Development Guideline, and including assessing negative impacts and SDGs contribution, key findings from our analysis with 2 case studies in Mongolia and Vietnam. As we know, Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement states that the parties engaging on voluntary basis and cooperative approaches should promote sustainable development and ensure environmental integrity. As also draft guidance of the reporting under Article 6.2 mentioned, the participating countries also have to report the information related to information related to the sustainable development and co-benefits in the regular information. Under Article 6.2, there are three reports that countries have to report. So this is a requirement for reporting information. So here, as we know that GCM is being implemented under Article 6.2, sustainable development is actually recognized as an important aspect to consider in project development, since it was mentioned to contribute to sustainable development of the partner countries. As of today, Indonesia and Mongolia have adopted sustainable guideline under the GCM, and the guideline here consists 2 parts. First is to prevent any negative impacts, focusing on environmental and social impacts. The second one is contributing to the SDGs in the partner countries, which is positive impact. I will briefly explain the first one and move into the second part. First one is to prevent negative impact on environment and local community. Project participants have to identify and develop action plan, sustainable development action plan, to prevent any negative impacts during the project implementation. If they have identified any, they have to submit sustainable development report to address those impacts. And those assessment impact category, there are 8 categories. First one is domestic policy alignment, environmental impact assessment, pollution control, safety and health, natural environment and biodiversity, economy, social environment and community participation, and technology development. So second part of the SD guideline is to contribute in the SDGs in the partner countries. As of today, this is adopted by the SD guideline in Mongolia, and to identify positive impacts during the project implementation, which is JCM contribution to the SDGs in the partner countries. And in IGS, we focus only on the analyzing those positive impacts, how JCM contributes to SDGs by identifying the linkages between the projects and the goals and targets of the SDGs. Now, I would like to move on to our analysis. And we started this analysis, first of all, to support project participants to design the JCM project to contribute to SDGs from the beginning of the project planning and developing stages early. The second, we thought it would facilitate the partner countries to maximize the JCM potentials beyond GHG emission reduction. And in our first publication, we developed qualitative and quantitative indicators for the JCM. Then it can measure its progress toward achieving each goals and targets of the SDGs. And the second publication, we developed the guidance for the private sector for enabling them to analyze their own projects' linkages with the SDGs and to consider it for future project development. So from next slide, I will explain the key findings from our analysis. Based on the indicator assessment and this analysis, we identified the JCM project, including the scheme itself, could link with the multiple goals of the goals and targets of the SDGs. As you can see in the figure, this can not only contribute to environmental and economic goals, but also some part of the social goals of the SDGs. In total, JCM is linking with 12 goals out of 17 goals. The indicator assessment shed light on how those JCM projects linking with the SDGs and made it clear and visible to identify those connections for the project participants. Now, I would like to briefly explain two case studies. One is in Mongolia in the agriculture sector. The other one is the water management in Vietnam. And the project, this project is a solar farm developed in Mongolia, and the population of the capital city of Mongolia has been increasing, as well as air pollution in the winter season due to burning raw coal. Therefore, the city needs to increase renewable energy source to reduce fossil fuel consumption, and also to improve sustainable agriculture practice to produce local vegetables. So to contribute those environmental economic challenges in the capital city, this solar PV project was developed and installed in a farm in Mongolia. The outcome of this project is first to generate the electricity from solar PV and sold it to the national grid system. That increased the revenue, and the revenue from the selling electricity increased the investments to introduce advanced agriculture technologies and enable this stable employment at the farm site. And also because of this project implementation, the local farmer has participated in the agriculture training in Japan, and also local employees had the training how to operate the solar PV, and also participated in intensive training programs. And for the participants from Japan on this project, they also developed another similar project under the JCM in Chile based on the experience from on this project that they developed in Mongolia. The second project is water pump in water management area in Vietnam. As we know, the population of Da Nang city is estimated to increase, as well as number of the tourists. This would require more stable and safe water supply in the city, and to meet those higher water demands. And to improving the situation, the higher efficiency water pump were installed in the water treatment in the Da Nang city. And the outcome of this project, as you can see, the stable and higher water quality was achieved. The energy efficiency of the water treatment increased by 20%, and it increased the water supply by 5,000 tons per day. Also, local employees acknowledge the working environment is very improved as new equipment has significantly reduced operating noise in the facility. And due to the successful of this project, the project participants, they had developed another new business opportunity in another drinking water treatment facility in Ho Chi Minh City. So it was one of the successful project case study. This is my last slide of my presentation. And in conclusion, I would like to highlight that it is important to develop the SD guideline and the mechanisms under Article 6.2. And I have also briefly explained that as Jcm SD guideline have both negative impacts and positive impacts Jcm contributions, but it is a country specific. However, we have receiving several comments from different countries that they would like to also develop those guidelines for their countries. And I briefly explained the GCM indicators that they are used to analyze GCM project linkages to the SDGs. And in total, based on our analysis, we see that GCM project linked with the 12 goals of the SDGs, including the agriculture and water management area. And these analysis would allow to design and plan projects from SDGs perspective in the early stage for both project participants and also partner countries. And we think this would also help partner countries to see potential sectors and technologies to enhance their SDGs achievement. And thank you very much for your attention. This is the end of my presentation, and please see the annex if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maroon, for your great presentation. Let us give applause for her. Indeed, for the sustainable development aspect, it's very important, and you have selected nice example cases from your rich portfolio of JCM project actually being implemented in our partner countries. So congratulations for your presentation. I am also inviting another friend of mine from the Global Environmental Center Foundation, Ms. Ishihara. Global Environmental Center Foundation, or JEC, is the entity or organization which is actually managing the finance, the JCM finance for the Ministry of the Environment. It is very powerful, and it's very important. And also, it is now considering very positively about the SDGs from the management organization of JCM Finance. And also, our partner countries in Japan are very serious about the gender equality, which is also a very important aspect of the Sustainable Development Goals. So she's going to talk about the recent updates of the JCM model projects, as well as the gender equality guideline that the JEC and the MOEJ had introduced quite recently. So I would like to invite you to the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kato, for your nice introduction. Good morning to Glasgow. I am Masami Ishihara of Global Environment Center Foundation, or JEC. Let me share my screen first. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's on it.
Okay. We act as an implementing organization for the financing program of the JCM model project. And it is my honor to be able to join this seminar and speak on behalf of JEC on the JCM and potential contribution to the SDGs through the JCM model project. I highly appreciate the organizer to give me this opportunity. In addition, I am pleased to talk about how to utilize the guideline on gender equality for the JCM so that you will get an idea how you can contribute to SDGs number 5 by following the gender guideline. First of all, I'd like to briefly explain about the joint crediting mechanism. Many of you probably heard of the mechanism, but it started in January 2013. The basic concept of the mechanism is to facilitate the diffusion of advanced decarbonizing technologies, products, systems, services, and infrastructure to the developing countries. At the same time, it is also aiming to implement the mitigation actions and contribute to the sustainable development in those countries. It also aims to appropriately evaluate Japan's contribution to greenhouse gas emission reductions or removals in a quantitative manner and to use them to achieve Japan and partner country NDC emission reduction targets. As of October 29, 2021, which is this year, 194 JCM model projects in 17 partner countries are implemented or being implemented. The colored dot at the bottom here represents the number and the technological areas of the project implemented in each country. This slide shows an outline of the JCM financial program for the JCM model projects in fiscal year 2021. The total budget was about 83 million US dollars. We opened a call for the proposal on April 7th, which was to continue till the end of October. However, as we received many excellent proposals in the early stage, we closed the application acceptance before October. We will probably be able to open the next call in next April 2022, but nothing has been decided yet at this moment. We will announce the detailed information on our website as soon as it gets available. JCM model project has a large potential to contribute to the sustainable development for the partner countries. When you implement a project, it is divided into 4 different stages as it evolves, namely planning, implementation, operation, and decommission. As you can see on this slide, there are blue bars on the upper part and the gray bars on the lower part. The blue bar imply potential areas of SDGs contribution, particularly by the renewable energy project. This slide is particularly made for the renewable energy project. And the gray bars, however, imply potential areas of contribution, which is common to all the JCM model projects. Likewise, we developed similar illustration by different technological categories to visually explain potential areas of contribution of SDGs through the JCM model projects. The materials are available on our website. Now I would like to touch upon the guideline on the gender equality for the JCM. It was issued in April 2020 by the Ministry of Environment Japan with JEC. As you well know, SDGs number 5 is for gender equality, and we would like all the project participants to face the gender issues while implementing the JCM model projects. The basic principle of the gender guideline is women's empowerment, gender-balanced decision-making process, and women's health and well-being. This slide shows how you will be able to take the gender equality in the JCM project at each stage. This is just our recommendation, and we believe that each project owner will be able to incorporate their own idea in their own way in the respective project. Now, let me briefly touch upon a recent survey we made last September. The scope of the survey was 53 projects selected in fiscal year 2020 and 21, which is after the implementation of the gender guideline. The purpose of the survey was to know the awareness of the participants about the gender guideline, and secondly, to see the status of the project, how they incorporated the gender guideline in their project. And thirdly, to grasp necessary information or the supporting tools that the project owners are demanding. And the survey was conducted between September 17th to 30th. And as to the awareness of the SDGs contribution, we got the answer. We got the reply that 65% were not aware. And however, among those who replied that they were aware or somewhat aware, 55% were motivated to apply for the JCM model project. From this, we definitely need further publicity campaign to potential applicants that the JCM model project has a large potential to contribute to SDGs. This is another question about the difficulty of the gender guideline implementation, and 25 replied that they did not know what to do or what kind of specific action to take. So we definitely need to provide them with good examples or role model projects so that they will get more specific idea about the action to take. Let me skip these for the time limitation. We'd like to share one excellent example today on JCM, about the JCM model project. This project was implemented in Cambodia. The selected year was 2015. The representative participant is Minebea Mitsumi, Inc., and the partner participants in Cambodia are OCIC, Siem Reap Provincial Hall, and Apsara. Currently, about 6,000 employees are working in their factory. The factory produces LED lights as well as other products which are exported to overseas as made in Cambodia products. This helps Cambodia's economy greatly and was honored by the Samdech Prime Minister by his courtesy visit to the factory. As shown here, this is a Prime Minister's visit. And this project is actually started as an introduction of high-efficient LED street light utilizing our wireless network. But this surely contributed to SDGs in many aspects. In this project, employees in the factory are provided with various training opportunities depending on the positions, from local language lessons to management training. There's no gender distinction in the training, and we consider these activities can contribute to SDGs number 4, quality education, as well as number 5, gender equality. This slide shows other areas of SDGs that this project is assumed to be contributing. There are two major categories of contribution area, which is environmental aspect and social aspect. For environment, this project introduced high-efficient LED street lights with a centralized control system with wireless network. The dimming of the lights can also be controlled remotely, which helped energy saving of electricity. It has expandability to different smart solutions as well. As to social aspect, the smart LED street lights will actually increase to 18,293 units in different provinces by the end of this year, including the original units of 5,672. So it's going to be about triple. And additional 5,000 units of light will be installed in Siem Reap. More lighting system introduction contributes to the expansion of infrastructure in Cambodia, which leads to the development of safe and smart city in surrounding area. By establishing the LED factory in Cambodia, it created many jobs in the community. So we can assume that this project has been contributing to SDGs number 7, 9, 11, 12, and 13. So in a similar way, we would like to introduce more excellent projects or role model projects so that we will be able to give more specific idea to the potential applicants as well as current project owners in which SDGs areas are the potential areas that they can contribute through their own projects. Thank you very much for listening. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ishara-san. It's been truly encouraging that for the now the gender equality promotion is really happening well in practices. What you have seen on the screen for the result of the questionnaire, the first the top answer is like we don't know what to do about the gender equality promotion. But now with the Cambodian project, she clearly demonstrated like one tangible case, and I think it is very important for us to also demonstrate by increasing that kind of co-benefits and also the gender equality promotional project while reducing greenhouse gases. So thank you very much, Isara-san from JEC. Now I am inviting my partner from Mongolia, who is Mr. Batjargal. And Batjargal-san is here with me, and he's been also supporting our activities through the JCM and also other parts of the climate change. But now he's going to talk about the joint credit mechanism and its benefit for Mongolia. So please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Kato-san, for giving me the floor. And I would like to highlight some key elements of cooperation between the countries between Jcm mechanism, using some slides prepared by the Jcm Secretariat in Mongolia. Yeah, Jcm, of course, as already Ms. Matsumoto-san noted that long history, and Mongolia as the first country which signed it to Japan MOU on Jcm also had said something. And actually the Dr. Dagwadorj, who is sitting here, he was one of the initiators of this sign of statement, being as head of climate change department at the Ministry of Environment and Green Development then. And today, Since already previous speakers mentioned, Matsumoto-san, Taro-san, Ishihara-san, and Mr. Mullen, everything talked about GCM, I will skip some slides. And since we are talking about contribution to the NDC, I decided to show some slides. Before Paris Agreement, we had very modest target at a 14% reduction of GHG, but after Paris Agreement, we decided to upgrade. Now we have principal target 22.7%. And but if we can attract some partner to cooperate with us using some conditional mechanism, we can increase the target up to 27.2%. And what you can see, what different sectors of Mongolia with agriculture, energy, industry, and can contribute to the reduction of GHG. And if we include not only emission but also single removal of GHG, we can increase target up to 44%. And this one is conditional one, and next this one is already maximum what we today planning to reach. And next one, please. And the role of Jcm projects in Mongolia, what you can see the different Jcm projects which are implementing in Mongolia, and on renewable energy sector, blue one, and energy efficiency projects, green one, please, next one. And contribution of every project in the reduction of GHG, you can see and totally, in average, annually, we can have around 47,000 tons of GHG reduction. And you see what credits covering all the Jcm partner countries, and for time being, Mongolia is like second country which contributing to Jcm, sharing credit with Japan. Next one, please. And most important projects are renewable energy projects. We already have 3 projects on use of solar energy to produce electricity in Mongolia, and it was very successful projects. And this slide already have been shown by Mr. Mullen, and I will skip this one. And total contribution of Jcm projects in respect of renewable energy today is around 38 megawatt. It is substantial contribution, around 16% of installed capacity of renewable energy. Next one, please. And just example about solar power plant in Dasan City. Next one. And this new solar power plant very close to international airport, which recently opened. And next one, please. And about contribution to the SDG, already Mr. Mullen and also Ms. Ishihara from GIEC mentioned it, and I will skip this one. And this project also in detail explained by Mr. Mullen, and you can skip it. And all the Jcm projects in Mongolia have some co-benefits, not only in reduction of GHG, but also in abatement of air pollution, for example. Just one small village in Mongolia, and every entity has own heating system, own chimney, and polluting air. Now we have one single, more efficient heating system, and it is a substantial reduction of air pollution. Next one, please. And nowadays, some big companies like MCS in Mongolia, and when they produce Coca-Cola, for example, you can see improvement of the production of steam using more modernized technology. Next one, please. And for us, it's very important not only just to increase the production of energy, electricity using renewable energy. For example, by 2030, we are planning 1.3 gigawatt. It means almost the same as today Mongolia is producing and using coal and so on. And efficiency is much more important. Okay. And all of them now somehow formulated as a roadmap, and we still not yet talking explicitly about net zero by mid of century, but we are trying to do something on that. Next one, please. And you see what recently just Prime Minister himself organized a big meeting on sustainable development. For the first time, he was talking very strongly on climate change. Mr. President also organized a special event just before COP26. He was participating in this COP and made very strong statement. It was the first time since Paris, the head of state is participating in the COP. And next one, please. Just as a concluding remark, I would like to say a few words. And first of all, very important that Jcm Projects Mongolia contributing substantially to the implementation of the upgraded NDC in respect of mitigation by reducing GHG emission. Most of Jcm Projects in Mongolia have co-benefits contributing to the adaptation activities, including, for instance, abatement of air pollution and other negative human health factors. Among Jcm Projects has a certain sustainable element promoting the preservation of precious resources like water and other non-renewable resources. Improvement of the working environment that Jcm supported innovative heat and electricity producing facilities and a more healthy living environment around those facilities, thanks to reduced ash, black carbon, and other air and soil pollutants, truly can be considered as an essential contribution to the quality of life of the local communities. Added value of Jcm Projects in Mongolia is more attributed to the technology transfer and know-how diffusion, rather than financial support. And in that sense, a scope of Jcm Projects and field of cooperation within Jcm can be extended without complex decision-making arrangements, I think. Coverage of new field of cooperation within Jcm scheme and engagement in innovative technology development for transformative change, particularly in the energy sector, for instance, new energy sources like green hydrogen or ultra high efficiency in distribution and use of energy and so on, can be initiated in cooperation with other multi and bilateral cooperation mechanisms on climate change. Lastly, well-coordinated activities of the stakeholders engaged in the same scheme of cooperation, taking into account the limited human resource in countries like Mongolia, would lead to great synergy, yielding tangible outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattachargar, for your excellent presentation. So thank you very much. Actually, the Mongolia is one of the earliest partner countries for which sign the agreement with the government of Japan. And then now it is strategically integrating with JCM into their NDC implementation as well as with sustainable development goals. They are so fast because for Mongolian people are like horse riding people like Genghis Khan, so that we are actually trying to follow Mongolian people. But thank you very much for be always quick and be always fast, and then show us what's next for coming from Mongolia, like Genghis Khan. Thank you very much, Dr. Batizargan. Okay, now I would like to invite next speaker. Next speaker is actually participating online from Hanoi, Vietnam, Miss Pham Thi Cha Mi. From the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, Vietnam. Miss Mi, can I have you online presentation?
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, let me share my screen first. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see you. See your screen. Actually.
I cannot share my screen.
Okay. Oh, it's already shared on the screen in online. So perhaps you can start with the first page.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. First of all, I thank you very much, the OECC, for having me join this event. And today I would like to share with you on the implementation of the JCM in Vietnam and its benefit in the past few years. And yeah. And in 2013, when we firstly signed the MOC on low carbon, can you hear me?
Yes,
Sorry.
I can. Yeah, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, when we firstly signed the memorandum on cooperation on low carbon growth between the Japanese side and Vietnamese side, a number of landmarks for the JCM have materialized. In 2017, the MOC between two sides was signed for the second time, marking the JCM mutual development in Vietnam, and also the cooperation between Japan and Vietnam in this particular field. And from that, there have been a number of projects successfully implemented and generating credits for both sides. But the most significant benefits is the transfer of low carbon technology from Japan to Vietnam, helping companies not only achieving the target on GHG emission reduction, but more importantly, improve the competitiveness of their production and operation. And last month on October 14, with the initial success of the JCM in Vietnam, Japan and Vietnam decided to extend the MOC until 2030. This time is well upgrade side at government level, showing the further and stronger commitment between the government of Vietnam and the government of Japan in GHG emission reduction, in contributing to the global 2-degree target. And from Vietnamese side, we have demonstrated our best effort to implement the JCM by making the policy for its implementation in the form of Circular Number 17 in 2015, stipulating the development and implementation of project under the joint credit mechanism in the framework of cooperation between two countries. And with these policies, the JCM implementation in Vietnam have focused on 15 areas, mainly on energy efficiencies and waste treatment, forestry, and construction, transporting, etc. And to implement the JCM in Vietnam, we also established like other countries, we established the joint committee between two sides, and we have organized 8 meetings between two sides to discuss a wide range of technical and operational issues for the smooth and expansion of the JCM project implementation in Vietnam. And according to that, we approved 15 methodology and reached 14 projects, and from which 6 of them have been issued credits for both sides with a total credit of around 4,500 credits. And the amount of credit allocated to Vietnamese side is 1/3 of the total issued. And last year, implementing the decision number 1 at COP21, Vietnam has completed the review and updated the NDC in 2020. The updated NDC of Vietnam has increased the target for GHG emission reduction quite significantly, and it will be even higher with our Prime Minister coming to the COP26 with many plans and partnerships to work on with the aim to improve our ambition to improve our ambition for GHG emission reduction target. However, the updated NDC has a wide range of sectors and subsectors that should implement GHG emission reduction measure. It also states the use of crediting mechanism, such as the JCM and other mechanisms, which will be coming after the COP26 and under the Article 6 of Paris Agreement. And there are a number of key technologies that we intend to apply to significantly reduce GHG emission in Vietnam to reach our targets set in the NDC update. The technologies that can be applied are a wide range of sectors, from energy sector to transport, construction, resource, waste, and agriculture. And for the co-benefit of JCM in Vietnam, there are atmosphere of domestic effort to reduce GHG in Vietnam now has amplified the co-benefit of JCM in Vietnam. There are, of course, various co-benefits, including scaling up the use of clean energy, renewable energy, and improving energy efficiency in all industries. This has been reflected in our new power development plan, PPA, that will be a landmark for Vietnam in restructuring energy sector and will have a significant effect on the effort to reduce GHG emission. Secondly, have to lighten barriers to the introduction of low carbon technology. The barriers has been in the form of how the technology increase the advantages for private sector. And now with the JCM, such benefits have been clearly present. And support the transfer of climate sustainable low carbon technology to support sustainable economic growth. Japan has always been a big investor of Vietnam. And we believe that with the upscaling of the JCM, it will significantly support the strategy on climate change as well as green growth plan in Vietnam. And promote sustainable urban and transport development, management of land and forest use for carbon absorption. Another one is improving carbon pricing perception as a key tool to advance mitigation effort. The JCM has not been a carbon pricing instrument, but with this memorandum of cooperation signed recently, we think that the JCM has a front seat in the effort of Vietnam government to introduce carbon pricing instrument in Vietnam and strengthen the capacity on procedure for assessing investment capital from foreign funds in a simpler and easier manner. The last one, promote regional and international cooperation and sharing of experience. And thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mi, for introducing the recent updates of the Vietnam's policy and the legal development. And I think it's a very exciting moment for the country that is actually has revised for the law on environmental protection, and now they're trying to actually bring all this very basic fundamental law into the implementation for them to actually move forward the implementation of the NDCs. So, and I think I hope we can do a lot, as you mentioned, for the mobilizing for the JCM as kind of like a catalytic tool to bring for lots of benefits to Vietnam and for the decarbonization of the country. Thank you very much, Ms. Mi, for your nice presentation. Now I am inviting for my colleague from the government of Chile, Felipe Diaz, from the Ministry of the Environment, Chile. He is also joining us for this event to introduce for Chilean perspective for the JCM and also the co-benefits, how we're going to bring this mechanism to maximize your sustainable development. So, Felipe, can I have you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. I think you cannot hear me very well. Okay, there we go. Thank you for your kind introduction. Ohayo gozaimasu to everybody. And thank you for having me here. I will give you just a small spoiler of what is going to be my presentation. My name is Felipe Diaz. I'm part of the Climate Change Office of the Ministry of the Environment in Chile. I'm also a negotiator here, particularly on transparency in the transparency agenda. Next slide, please. I think our previous colleagues have already told us that the multiple benefits that the JCM can bring to many countries. And I will try to talk about that at the very end, but for the meaning of the time, I will try to rush a little bit to get there, but I think we all are very clear, and in Chile it's not it's the same case that we have seen until now. But what I want to show you today a little bit is about what we are doing in Chile, considering what is going to be the next step on market mechanisms. We are, as I will show you in a few, recognize the use of markets on in the benefits of achieving and improving and being more ambitious in our NDC. So what we're doing right now as a state climate policy is to create and define all the instruments needed to later on, when we apply markets, we have all the benefits that can have, but also securing the environmental integrity, avoiding double accounting, and other, for example, just like how you have mentioned in the previous presentation, to align with other agendas, particularly with the SDGs. Next slide, please. So basically, the first part and the most important part that I want to share with you is that in Chile we are not having, we are trying to be as serious as we can be with climate action and climate policies. We are having a climate state policy, not a governmental one, not something that we will be changing every 4 years as our governments change, but something that has a long-term strategy. Next slide, please. So one of the first steps that we took is to work on a climate change framework law, which is, we created a project since 2018, and during the last year we discussed this in the parliament. We got it approved in the Senate. Now it's being discussed by the next camera, and hopefully we have this approved as soon as possible. Because one of the main objectives that we define in this law, and that is going to be something that is going to be settled for Chile, is that we define the carbon neutrality by 2050. In the law, it's specifically mentioned that the carbon neutrality will be on 2050 or less, depending on how we can advance our projections and what science is asking us to do. We have another adaptation goals and indicator, basically mostly on water, as Chile is having a water scarcity problem and is increasing because of climate change. And also, which is very important for this, is that we have a most defined institutional arrangement for climate change, which is very helpful for other countries to get to Chile, understand how things are being done, and how stable these policies are being defined. And also some financing and economics instruments that I will show you in a few. Next slide, please. So one of the contents that I think is very important to consider with the JCM and other markets is in the Title 3, the greenhouse gas emission standards and the emissions reduction certificates that we are defined by law. So next slide, please. In the article, in fact, it's the Article 14 now, because of the Parliament discussion, it changed a bit. But the first thing we define is that we are going to have a limit of emissions for certain industries, for greenhouse gases and short life polluting compounds. That will define how much some specific industries that will have a definition by the amount of emission they have, they can emit. Next slide. And then the article now, the 15, will help us to have reduction certificates that will help us to try to advance in sectors that are not able to limit their reductions, and do something with other sectors that are able to even create some absorptions in their projects. But this greenhouse gases reduction needs, we will define by law and the regulations that they need to be additionals, measurables, verifiable, permanent, and need to be aligned with the Sustainable Development Principles, which also will align with all Article 6 that is being now defined in an integral, environmental integrity and the doubly accounting issue. Next slide, please. So that's the climate change framework law. And the next thing is the update of our NDC that we updated on 2020. We changed from emission intensity mitigation commitment to absolute emission that we want to reach 95 megatons CO2 equivalent by 2030. And we also have a carbon budget of 1,100 megatons of CO2 that covers the period of 2020 and 2030. We also recognize that, as the science says, it's not the same, the different paths that we can take to reach this level. So we also defined that we will reach 2025 peak of emissions to assure that we will start decreasing as soon as possible. It's important also to say that in our NDC, it has two very interesting points. This is our unconditional target, but it's also defined a conditional that depends on if we have some investment that are not linked by the government, and also if there are some advances in the technology we don't recognize. So in this conditional one, we commit also to try to reach a reduction of 45% of the reduction by 2030, just like the IPCC report 1.5 asked us to have. And the second important thing that I want to mention on the NDC is that we have a mitigation commitment, adaptation, a mixture of both, but also we created a social pillar in our commitment that defined, well, two things. One is a just transition strategy that, because we recognize that even all the things that we need to do needs to help all citizens in the country, not just a few of them, and we need to also look for the benefits of all of them in all the problems and benefits we can have. And secondly, we, in our 2020 NDC, we linked each commitment we have with the SDG agenda, linking the commitment with the specific SDG that is being aligned, which now I can notice from the previous presentation is something that will be very helpful to define which are the projects and the commitment that can be aligned with JCM projects in the future. Next slide, please. Very quickly, the energy sector in Chile is the major contributor to greenhouse gases emission, mostly by electricity and transport and industries. So that's one of the things that we are getting more interested on. It's okay. Next slide. It's good. Thank you. No problem. To define all our NDC commitment on all the climate policy, we are working with projections. The last projection that we have and we define is the one that you are seeing on the screen, which show you which are the main emission reduction projects we need to have during the next years to be able to reach the carbon neutrality, also considering all the forestry capture that we need to increase sometimes, and also protect to avoid that this absorption can be reduced by, for example, forest fires. So as you can see, we have a big percentage on coal phase out, on sustainable buildings, electromobility, sustainable industry, hydrogen, and energy efficiency. Thank you. Next slide. Also, something that we got to work with during the 2019-2020 is to define which are the most cost-effective measures we have in Chile to recognize which are how possible are the different projections in the near future, and then we can have a secure and verifiable commitment. So as you can see, we know which are the most cost-effective projects, which are the ones that are easy to implement by the country, but also there is another sector that is a little bit more harder because it requires more investment, because the technology is not still as cheap as we could want. And this is very important. Here is very easy to recognize where international aid can help, can come. And secondly, not only the cost efficiency, but also it's important to recognize and talk and maybe go a little bit deeper to recognize when each of these kind of projects are being defined to be implemented too. Because also we recognize as a market mechanism can help to implement projects that are more expensive that the country can pay. Also, we know that market can help to bring these projects from the future to a near future and have them implemented sooner, and with that reach a peak of emission sooner too. Next slide, please. And finally, something that we presented the last week is our long-term climate strategy, which is the next step of all this state of climate policy, because we, on our NDC, we defined it, which was our national carbon budget, but then what's next? How we know what are the specific projects and the responsibilities of each sector of the economy in Chile. And in this long-term strategy, we have all ministries in the country to define which are the commitments and which are the specific carbon budget that each sector will have to be able to recognize where are we doing it well and we are not. Next slide, please. The long-term strategy contains more than 400 transition goals that are based on science that has been discussed with the different sectoral ministers. And which is very important is that just like in the NDC, we learned that the usefulness that linking the meta agenda from Paris with the Sustainable Development Agenda. So also each of these commitments are also linked with the ones from the SDGs. Next slide, please. Basically, something that is very important from the long-term strategy, there are 5 building blocks. The climate governance that comes from the climate change framework law. The cost effectiveness that is coming from the previous graph that I showed you. The nature-based solution. This is something that we want to increase because we recognize the multiple benefits we can have from that, giving even some adaptation actions coming from mitigation projects. The NDC social pillar that it makes the SDGs and the just transition with our commitments, and that everything of this needs to be science-based, noting that it's something that needs to be a base from where it comes, but also science at some point in the next few years, it says that we need to be more ambitious. It's something that we will have to do. And the law also gives us that opportunity to update our NDC and long-term strategy if that is needed. Next slide. This is just to show you that a little bit of what is the history and what the future that we want. Between 2020 and 2030, you can see the carbon budget. In 2025 is the peak that we want to reach, and then the rest of the trajectory that is reaching 65 megatons in 2050. Next slide. And this slide is just to remember that the NDC, as I mentioned before, recognize the role of the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement to be more ambitious and to try to advance more quickly on the implementation of each of the projects that we need to reach carbon neutrality. Next slide. Finally, I wanted to show you a little bit about how the sectoral emissions were defined on the climate in the long-term strategy. As you can see, because of, I mentioned before, the most emission-intensive sectors are coming from the energy and the transport sector. Those two are the ones that have the hardest work, basically. Then it comes the mining ministry, which also it's using the energy, but it's well defined which are the kind of project that mining can do. And then agriculture, housing, health, and public work ministry that also have many projects that all of these can be checked on the long-term strategy, very specifically on the commitments and the actions that are committed. Next slide. So basically we have all of this basis, this ground well set to define the use of Article 7 mechanism or other market mechanisms, depending on how we advance on the negotiation. Next slide. And what we define on the NDC 2020 is a round table that it has a public and private instance where we are defining all the rules that we are going to have in the government to work with any kind of market. And this is something that we are working between the sectors, and we are bringing private actors to to have them updated on how we are thinking this thing, because it's not just as something that we can just jump without having the final answer from Paris, from the negotiation. But we know already some things that we are not gonna move away, which is environmental integrity, avoiding double accounting, and promoting sustainable development. Next slide. A little bit of the same, so maybe I will try just to rush a bit. Next slide. Okay, here. So, as a last slide, I wanted just to remind and show some of the projects that we have implemented. Talk to you. Well, first of all, I apologize because well, many of these projects I don't get involved in the past, but I have been working with a colleague from the Ministry of Environment, which both study in the same university, the Universidad of Santa Maria, where the first project was implemented.
Welcome to COP26.
I will stop.
Wear a face mask over your mouth and nose at all times during your stay.
I will wait a bit.
Or if you're seated in a
Okay, I follow up. So finally, this project is reducing 500 tons of CO2 emissions every year. And one of the main things that have as a summary on this, we have discussed is that this kind of institution, academic institution or other private institution, have no possibility on invest of this kind of technology, and this helped to bring this up very soon on time. If we compare it with other projects that just now after 5 years, it's just being implemented. Next slide. I think that this is the last one. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very much, Felipe. Amazing. Always about Chile. It's have so many things are happening on in your country, and I think you have shared the very structured efforts by the government and also the private sector of Chile. Thank you very much for your presentation. So now we're almost up, but I just want to have like only one word from 3 countries. What are expectations to Japan, to OECC, to JEC, to IGES? Well, so just one word, please give me. So, Mr. Bhattacharya, what do you expect to us as the next step?
More money, more
more finance, but more benefits. Okay, thank you very much. Well, that's very good and straightforward. Miss Mi from Hanoi, what is your expectation to Japan?
Yeah, so we have a number of technologies and sectors that can be prioritized for the JCM implementation in particular and the NDC implementation in general. As I mentioned in during the presentation, the technology has a wide range of sectors, from energy to transport, agricultural, LULUCF, and waste management. However, to realize this technology to be applied in Vietnam, some challenges that we need to overcome. First is the policy and incentive that we need to develop for the upscaling of the JCM. So currently, it's only JCM in Vietnam is only project-based activity, and we want them to become a program that can include a much bigger scale and across a wider range of sectors. Okay. And that need to have a specific policy and incentive from the government and the line ministry. It's lucky that our government is highly supportive of such a mechanism, and currently we are already working on it. Second is the perception and understanding of private sector. They need to understand, and that such a mechanism is not only about GHG emission reduction. They do not need to invest merely for the sake of GHG emission reduction, but the major purpose is to improve their competitiveness in this ever-changing market. So there are also many other core benefits that I have mentioned before. Therefore, a comprehensive capacity building program for private sector need to be in place.
Okay.
And The last one, of course, is financial issue with just support from METI and MOVJ and the government of Vietnam is, I think, is not enough. We need to have a private sector to come in and actively participate in the process. There are also the role of banking system and financial institution need to join
All right.
this process.
Thank you very much for walking us through all the very tangible and also like structured for request to Japan, and I hope this is something we can actually work on from now on as the next step of working program with the government of Vietnam. Thank you very much, Ms. Mi. And also Felipe, so what's your expectation? What's your request to Japanese partners?
I think I got tempted with the response of our colleague here, but I will. My main expectation, I will say, is to review our latest commitments or long-term strategy, because I think there it's going to be very easy to recognize which are the projects that we can work together. We also invite you to get closer with our ministry, our energy ministry, because I think at this point where we are defining our market policies that we're going to have internally, and this is something that is an ongoing process because also Article 6 is not defined. We're open to discuss this, as just I mentioned, it's a public-private round table. So at this, everything that you may help us, you may have as an inquiry and insecureness on how this is work. I think this is the time where we can discuss, we can see how we can help each other. So when we define, we have all these inputs to create this policy.
Okay, thank you very much, Felipe. Well, your very good proposal for the reviewing of the achievement, and this, based on which we can also think about how we can actually move forward the contribution to the long-term strategy as well. Thank you very much. So I think today's presentation discussion were extremely rich, and we want to talk more about the JCM. We want to talk more about the low carbon decarbonization technology, but today time is very short, so that let us continue with this kind of discussion through online, and also we have a website where we are going to upload the result of today's discussion and presentation. So you're welcome to continue to stay with us virtually, and also perhaps physically in the rest of the time in COP. Thank you very much for your participation, and also I would like to thank all the presenters, speakers, for their excellent contribution to this event. So with this, I would like to declare the adjournment of this session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. and the OCC for the invitation and